So, I wasn't going to make a recording today. I was going to just spend some time, be a little selfish for me. And to sit out in the sun in my courtyard, talk to the sun, just be with nature and feel absolute love from the sun. The sheer intensity of its love. And just soak that in. But I started to have a conversation with Jesus. And it wasn't so much a conversation. It's more just listening. So I did. And I decided it was valuable enough to share. I mean, of course it's valuable. And he wanted to make a point. Because doing what I'm doing on YouTube poses a little bit of a danger moving forward with some of this material. It might be slight, but I have to be careful of what I say and do. And that's the point he was making. Because he did it in a way, in the best way, to speak the truth and to be the truth, to show people what it means to be the truth. To heal their physical body before thousands of people instantly. As sheer proof of the power of truth that when he wielded is going to draw the ire of all those which are walled up behind the deceit and the lies. I mean, it's the ultimate truth to power scenario. Is it not? But he had to be ready because he knew what was coming. To speak that kind of truth and to be that truth is the threat to the established lies which individuals use as a tool of greed. And he knew he was going to pay the price. And therefore, he had to be ready. For I don't know how long it was, 2 or 3 years of a wham-bam explosion of truth upon the populace. And to be ready for them to execute him. For the sheer audacity of being the most honest individual on the planet. It's so utterly ridiculous when you think about it in that way, is it not? But it is the truth. For being the most honest individual on the planet, the people rewarded him with execution. But he was ready to give the greatest middle finger of sorts to those that tried. And he did it with perfect composure. Total respect to their make-believe authority. And he pitied them for the decisions they made. Because they paid the price. For lifetimes, they're going to pay the price. But he was ready for those individuals out of sheer greed that they wanted to hold on to their lies and deceit was so much greater than just sitting and listening to the truth that he embodied. Oh, beloved Jesus, I love you so much. You have no idea. People have no idea how much respect I have for him. I hope I can convey it in these words. I try to speak. But yeah, I had no intention of making a recording today. I wanted this to have a day of me sitting and learning. I think this little insight is valuable enough to make a recording, because any of us, like myself, who is speaking about the truth at this level, needs to be careful. Because I am not at the level of Jesus, where should a threat come, it would, be of a greater, unfortunate scenario could occur. We'll just put it that way. I'm not at the position of being able to give that ultimate middle finger to the status quo establishment of lies and deceit, and to raise the body into its perfection when it was threatened. So I'm not sharing this I'm not terribly concerned. I'm sharing this because this is what he told me. And it's interesting enough that those of us who want to speak the truth should only go so far, right? Unless you're ready. Only go so far. He did the heavy work. He laid a foundation for the rest of us that is beyond reproach. Don't go too far. Be careful. I'll be careful. All right. Actually, I just want to say one more thing to be utterly clear, that when I talk about these things, I'm in no shape or form comparing myself to Jesus. Okay? But when any individual in life knows they're on the path, you know. You just know. The universe lets you know. Let's just put it that way. And so being on the path leads to a certain destination. It's the same destination for every individual. There's no variable or variance. It's the same destination. And I just wanted to make the point that even though I talk about these things, there is no comparison that I'm making between myself or Jesus or anybody else. The point I'm trying to make is when you know you're on the path, you know it. The truth presents itself to you as a reward. And the destination is certain over time. Like I said in my other video, to do what Jesus did took decades at sitting at the feet of, I'm going to assume, an ascended master. See, probably the only type of individual that could even teach a person of his magnitude. And to do that for 10 plus years is what was required. Okay. To be able to give that ultimate middle finger. To put it crudely. I do so out of humor too, okay? It's just kind of humorous to say it that way. But it makes a point. But it's also out of deep love and respect. The sheer audacity of an individual to come back and speak that level of truth. Remember, Saint Germain did it from the well, I'm not going to say from the shadows, that'd be inappropriate, but you know what I mean. He had to create secret societies even to discuss this kind of subject. Because the threat of death was real. He didn't want to see the people that were being invited to these gatherings in the forest in the middle of the night to learn and understand the truth of life, to have their lives threatened. Because that was very real. You know, well, it's still real, but back then, 500 years ago, it was no joke. The religious indoctrination of people, that they felt the right to execute you on the spot, sometimes without any kind of legal intervention. And could just say you were a threat. So we've come a long way since then. That was the very reason for Saint Germain working tirelessly to establish this country to begin with, the United States. He worked tirelessly trying to establish something in Europe for hundreds of years behind the scenes. I'm just sharing this because it's just so ridiculous when you think about it, how much interest there is by people in embodiment to execute anybody who speaks the truth. And to be that truth. Even when they say, like Jesus did, he made it very clear. Render up to Caesar that which is Caesar's. Render up to God that which is God's. I mean, that was his way of prolonging his life, apparently, right? Because it's the truth. He wasn't here to threaten the establishment. He was here to awaken. And yes, I mean, technically the establishment understood that when people awaken, their rule is threatened, right? But it's just kind of really appalling that people, that children of God, could choose they're making a choice to not believe what they are. Because they try, or look at, if they were given complete free reign, I mean, technically the universe does. These people put a rope around their own neck, do they not? To try, the universe gives the children so much free reign. I mean, that is the purpose of free will. It's the ultimate expression of life. But to use that in the manner that they are, where they want to make other children of God subservient and work like slaves and pay them to make them feel power and wealth and have that wealth, when if they just believed the truth of what they are, they would have everything, all the power, and a populace that absolutely adored them for their honor and integrity, versus what we see today. Just put it that way. I don't even have to put words to it. Well, I should say the slightly awakened populace, which understands the thievery that they are witnessing in life, the enslavement and the thievery. Just call it out for what it is. And I guess I can't stop. I'm just on a thread. Oh my God. I stopped the recording and I'm like, all right, I guess I'm starting up again. Because it's just so utterly ridiculous. Those in power could have everything. And this is what Saint Germain worked with individuals like Napoleon on, right? He taught Napoleon the truth and empowered Napoleon to try to unify Europe. And in the end, Napoleon turned on him, turned against the light. And it was that moment when the light withdrew their power, he was exiled. Everything failed. All of his campaigns of unification failed the moment he turned his back on the light. That was a very interesting time. See, that's something interesting for everyone to consider, is how the light works. Because people lost their lives in these campaigns of Napoleon, and yet he was an instrument for a while of the light of Saint Germain. So think about that sometimes it is necessary. The light and the power of truth deems it necessary that people lose their lives. I never really thought about that until this very moment. I'll have to ponder that a little bit more, since it's such a new idea. But that's what it was. At times, the truth at times does not sit back. At times it needs to act. Because the darkness of mankind can grow so intense and so utterly oppressive to the children of light that dire action such as that is required. But even those efforts of the universe to establish a unified Europe, to be a kingdom of light for the future, fail because of a weak individual. But they made the effort anyway to try. And after that, so I just want you to think about how, this country came about because it was a necessary requirement for this planet to have a place that in the future, once we get through these growing pains, will be a beacon of light for mankind upon this planet, where everyone can come and worship God freely. It's why it was established. So people would stop having the threat of execution for worshiping God in a different manner than some other part of the world. All right, I'll make another recording about the sun. All these civilizations throughout history, which archaeology terms sun-worshipping societies, are pretty damn smart. But history currently talks about it like as some kind of ignorance, calling them, sun worshippers. Because they have no idea, no understanding about the true concept of worshiping the sun was a sign of tremendous respect. It was a sign of an intelligent civilization, which we do not have right now. So these civilizations that were building life out of stone were way more advanced than where we are today. Even with our giant glass towers and skyscrapers, those buildings will not withstand time. And these stone civilizations withstand hundreds of thousands of years. Hundreds of thousands of years of time. And these civilizations were termed sun-worshipping societies. Because out of our ignorance today, we don't understand the respect that these civilizations had to life. The sun, just think about the sun. It is an individual. The sun is a child of God who has earned the right to be at the center of a solar system where other children of God are attending class. That is exactly what's happening. The sun is the headmaster of the school. It's not a teacher. It is and it isn't, right? It's so far beyond us that we can't even recognize it for what it is. It's running a business. And that business is a ferocity of education and remembering to the children of God. Just when I use the word ferocity, because I love it, because the light is absolutely ferocious. If you go stand in the sun for a while and you tell me the intensity of that love does not have a ferocious aspect, it is so intense it will dissolve your body over time. And yet, that light and everything about the sun is a love that's so intense we have to shield ourselves from it. So think about that for a moment. It just conjures so much love and respect from me as I speak these words. So next time you're out in the sun, just think about the intensity of that love to the entire solar system and the level of understanding it takes by that being to perform that service. And yet, there are instruments infinitely greater than it. I mean, just think of how many suns there are in the universe, and it's constantly expanding. They cannot be counted. These are all beings who have earned a right to be a powerhouse of radiant love to an entire solar system. So I'm sitting here thinking about, just everything. And my teacher comes to mind today because I think back to when my time with him, I was faced with a choice that I was literally scared to go forward. Remember, my teacher earned the right to call forth miracles to occur he had earned that right, and nature obeyed him. Life obeyed my teacher. I'm sitting here thinking about that because I do so out of love and respect to remember these moments with him and how I was not ready to go forward at that time. I remember being faced with a decision, and I chose to reintegrate with the world and be normal. It's the best way to put it. I'm not saying I was ready to do what he was doing by any means at that time, but the next steps were what was necessary of the forgetting of your humanity at that point is what I was faced with, and at that time I was not ready to make that decision, or to move forward, I should say, because it scared the hell out of me. It's a huge decision. You know, until you're faced with that too, you won't understand, I don't think, the intensity of that decision. And I don't know if I'll be ready in this lifetime. I mean, creating a family and having a business, well, my teacher had all that and he walked away from it. On his path, he just walked away. Because ultimately that's what's required. Jesus did the same. He walked away from his family and just headed east to his destiny of meeting the Ascended Master. He had a calling and he pursued it to the end that we know. Because anybody on the path, such as my teacher, they heed a call. And to make that decision to forgive your humanity to the extent that the universe will respect you enough, to trust you enough to have those powers again, is something I'm thinking about right now with utter respect. I'm sharing this with you because all of us somewhere down the road will be faced with this decision. For me, it will be a second time. You know, part of the reason why I will share this with you is because I want you to understand that even with everything I know and have experienced and seen and sat at the feet of someone who had this power, that even when I'm faced with the question of pursuing it, that there is still the hold of this world is still that strong, where I can fear going forward anymore, at least at that time. God, these planes. This municipal airport that's by, these pilots, small aircraft, they always come by, like clockwork, it seems like. So forgive the background noise, people, but I want to sit outside today and just be out here with sun, because that is what I wanted to do today. So I'm going to have to we're all going to have to tolerate this aircraft. But what was the point I was making? Oh, please come back to me. I guess the point was, I want you to understand that I'm not sharing this out of self-aggrandizement, but I want you to understand that it is not automatic. Maybe you all are stronger than I am, but even when I'm there, faced with that awesome responsibility, that it is not an automatic decision. And I'm not going to say it was weakness, because I walked into this asking for it. This is what I wanted to know. This is why life brought me to this individual, because he was what I was ready for, which was a brother on the path a little before me. So I'm sharing this with you because this is so you understand how life will work for you. But even when you think you want to serve the light, it is an awesome decision you're faced with to go forward at some point. And it is not automatic. And I'm tearing up as I talk about this, as I feel that moment again of being faced with a decision to whether to reintegrate with the world or to cast it aside and go to the next level. Maybe it was fear, maybe it wasn't. But I recognized the immensity of the decision, and I chose to reintegrate with the world. For a time. Maybe it all has a purpose of me being here with you now, speaking these words, that I'm slowly ready to go to the next step. That's kind of what this is. That's kind of where I'm at in my life. I've done the family thing. I brought a child into the world who I will bring up into the light. Into these very teachings I'm speaking to you, I will bring her up into this slowly. She's only 10, so can only go so far right now because her minds aren't fully developed. If you just go full on right now, it would make her unstable. That's why the light can only do so much for us as we develop in life from childhood. I share this with you so you understand the decisions you will make in life you may think are going to be automatic when you're faced with them, but they may not be. Such as for myself. Actually, as I speak these words, I can confirm with you that I am going to move forward over the next 10 or 20 years. I mean, I've already made this decision. And this is why I'm able to even speak of these things to you now. Because I have made a decision to move forward. And it's going to be a slower process because I'm still entangled. I don't know if entangled is the right term, but, you know, being in the family is kind of an entanglement. Because unless you're with somebody that's ready to move forward with you in the same manner, in a way they're holding you back. And my wife and I have these conversations. She knows, kind of. I can only tell her so much because she's not at a place where I can have these same kind of conversations with. She wouldn't understand what I'm talking about. But for her, being in my presence over these years has changed things for her, slowly, without me saying too much. But it's gradual, and there's a lot of resistance. Being in my position, I can see resistance in people, and I respect it. I only say so much. I respect everybody's resistance. But they have no idea how much I want to reveal to them about the light. You know, I made some errors when I came back to civilization from being with the feet of my teacher. Just out of ignorance, you know. Let's just say I told my mom a lot. And it traumatized her to the point where she doesn't even remember what I told her. That's the kind of walls people can put up. Trauma is a wall. And when you just come back with a head full of light and you just slap it upon people, you can cause them trauma to the point where they literally do not remember the entire experience. And this was revealed to me when I asked my mother. We have a wonderful relationship now, but she does not remember anything that I told her. And that's when I realized it was so traumatic for her to listen to. She walled it off. And I've learned since then to be very reserved in what I say to people. But that's changing now as I embrace the power of the light within me to talk about these things again. Because I'm ready to move forward. I have made that decision. And I'm in control of how fast I'm going to move forward. Because I've got to ease my way out of family life. It's going to take another decade. Isn't that so funny for me to even say those words? It's going to take me a decade to ease out of family life, so that I may serve the light in the next level of capacity. And I'm sharing this with you so you can also understand the decisions you need to make in your life. And if you're ready to make those decisions in this life, it might be too much. You might be too entangled, to make these decisions in this life, and that's okay. Because you can make the calls to be ready for your next life. So you will move into this with perfect ease, that you will make the decision of your parents, who you choose for your parents, will ease you into this life perfectly naturally. I mean, just think about how Jesus did that, how he chose his mother. And she was ready to receive him. That was a bond she made with life. It's just utterly beautiful to think about. And the awesome decisions that people have made in their lives to serve the light. It is no joke. The intensity of devotion required to go forward. You know, I remember making a decision where I chose to have a wife that was not awakened. I made that choice consciously because somehow I knew in the future I'd have to walk away from all entanglements with other human beings. And it's easier to do that with a woman who's not awakened. Funny enough, that was my rationale at the time. Because, you know, my first wife was on this path. She was older than me by 15 years. But the intensity of two parties on the path who are not at the same level of understanding is extremely intense. I'll just put it mildly that way. So it's easier to deal with an unawakened individual. I made that conscious choice because I knew, even though I was reintegrating with the world and would have a family and bring forth a daughter, that I'd have to walk away from them in the future. It's not a sense of abandonment, it's just a sense that that time is over and you're moving on to different things. And it's going to require me to have no entanglements in the world. And we just leave it to life. I'm not forcing anything. Life knows what I'm ready for, and it will make things happen. It will make the arrangements way better than I could. And that's all you have to do. You make the decision and wait. Let life work things out. Give it space. Don't worry. Don't fret. Just give it space to do its work. Time, that's the purpose of time on this planet, in this classroom. We're not capable of moving at light speed. We are like embryos. And we can't, it takes time to understand the magnitude of your power before you can accept instantaneous response. Because I remember the moment my teacher performed that miracle in front of me. It's still utterly shocking to him. To have that awesome responsibility. I remember his response was that of a child in utter amazement at the magnitude of the power they were capable of wielding. Because it's still fresh. You have no idea how much I respected him to be able to witness that in a human being. His utter humility to be a wielder of that power and that purity of heart. He didn't turn to me and say, "See what I can do." He laid bare his heart to me in that moment. And that's what I beheld, was a child in utter humility to the magnitude of his power. It is with deep respect that I convey this to you so you can understand. I have tears streaming down my cheeks in absolute adoration to him. For letting me witness that. To witness that transformation, an individual serving the light. You have no idea. I don't even know how people could have, just think of the people witnessing what Jesus did. Were they even capable of understanding what they were seeing? I'm assuming not. The magnitude of what they were witnessing. Because for me to witness that in a person several tiers below Jesus is utterly astonishing. And to see that, how a person still new to these powers and how they treated them with utter devotion and respect as a child kneeling before God, amazing himself that he's earned that right. And I share this so you understand the next steps you're going to be making in your life and these decisions you're going to be faced with. It is tremendous devotion required moving forward. And that devotion is an awesome responsibility. Intertwined. All of these things are the oneness of life. This devotion, the responsibility, and the love, and the tremendous ferocity of that love required. Ferocity of that devotion. It is not for the weak souls. You have to be an utter warrior to move forward. Because of the pressure you're faced with. You know, part of the reason why I'm making these recordings is so you can feel the emotion in me. Because this is the proper use of emotion. When it's used in the service of the light. I want you to, I'm trying to speak these things so you can feel the emotion in me and the immensity of the things I've witnessed and experienced. So that when you're faced with these same things, you may make different decisions than I will, but you will be, I don't know, forewarned, prepared. I guess that's the purpose of this, is to prepare you. In a sense, from my humble position of what I have experienced. Because I know what I have experienced is more than what others have experienced. And that's how I'm serving. Before I move forward in my life over the next decade, I want to leave these recordings so you know where I'm starting at again. You can feel the immensity of this, my decision-making process. And I think that's going to be useful for some people on the path. It must be. I mean, I think this is why life is having me do this. Because it's going to serve a greater purpose of good for someone. Even if it's for a single individual, it's entirely worth it. You know, I guess that's, something I'm trying to impart upon you. Is that what you're bearing witness to in me making these recordings is an individual who's taken 25 years of sitting with this to be ready to even talk about it. Maybe that doesn't mean anything to you, but I hope it does. It's taken me 25 years to be ready to even talk about these things I'm making recordings about. And I feel like it's moving forward at a very rapid clip. I'm in the process of learning at this point. I've conveyed almost everything I know. Well, you can never really do that. Things will still come up because I don't remember everything, but it comes back up as I spend this time, these hours of focusing on the light. It comes back up slowly. It's almost like I walled off some of it because it was so traumatic to see this stuff, to witness it. Now, I'm not talking about what I witnessed with my teacher, but the moments of revelation I had in his presence of my own specific journey, which he did not know. He witnessed me having these moments, but he did not know what I was experiencing. And the things I saw, I'm sure he's seen. And I shared some of it with him, but even then, it's a very private matter of what the universe reveals to you. It's taken me 25 years to be ready to even talk about this stuff with others. But it seems like that's a part of the service I'm going to be running as I move forward. And using this current technology we have, a social media, that others that find this material, they're going to bear witness to somebody just moving forward. And it must be serving some greater good to somebody, or life would not be having me do it. So I'm just sharing this with you because I sit here and I think about this, just kind of watching. I'm just sharing this because I'm witnessing this in the moment. It's not something I've thought about. It's not something I've planned. It's not something I'm doing with forethought. I have no idea where any of this is leading. I do not know what I'm going to say the next day, or what I'll be taught the next day. I was taught beautiful new things just today. And I absolutely love being in this place that I am. I absolutely adore how the light is working. I'm sharing this with you so you understand, hopefully you'll understand my voice and the words I use of how to attune yourself to listen. Because that's what you have to do. You have to learn how to listen. And it is an art to learn how to listen. It's an artistry that will never cease. Even the sun is still developing its artistry of listening to what its next step is in life. Think about that. It never ends. Once you engage this path, for the rest of your life, you're going to be an artist of learning how to take what you're receiving and to share it. It's an art form. And it's absolutely wonderful to ponder. And it took me that moment of deciding to use the psilocybin to gain enough courage in myself to start down this path of artistry. And that is what I humbly share with you as a brother in the light, learning again how to be an artist of communication. And anyone listening will be walking this path with me. I hope in the same humility. You know, there's nothing this world needs more than just individuals bearing their heart to the world. That's what all these recordings are, is me just laying bare my heart. And there's nothing this world needs more than individuals doing this very thing. This world screams for our authenticity. Does it not? Is not the thing that is missing from this world is authenticity of individuals laying bare their heart. There is nothing more powerful in human embodiment than to do that. And I'm not saying that to make what I'm doing, I'm not patting myself on the back, but it is an honest statement. And I think you will feel that. I think you will agree with me that the world needs more authenticity. It is the thing that is lacking from life. I mean, where do we find it? Where do you turn in this world right now to find authenticity? You won't find it on TV. Sorry, I'm going to grab my keys and unlock my gate. My cat is wanting to go out without, he's being lazy and doesn't want to jump over the wall. But that is, at least from my perspective, isn't that the thing that's missing? Does anybody agree with me? Is there anybody that sees it that same way? That the thing that's lacking in this world is authenticity of experiences of the light. Or I shouldn't say experiences. There's a lot of people experiencing the light in various degrees, right? And they're actually, they've had the courage to share it, but I don't know, there's a difference, right? And I think people can feel that, of what they attune to. That I hope people will attune to my content. This is what I hope, is that people will attune to my content or my recordings because they feel the integrity of what I'm trying to communicate. If you can't feel my integrity, then you shouldn't be here. I guess that's what I mean, is that this world needs more individuals. With this day and age of this technology, you can reach the entire globe at a single recording, potentially, right? I lost my train of thought of where I'm going with this, but maybe I've said enough. Maybe I've said enough. I was just thinking about that, about just the need of the hour. Wow. I look up into the sky and the clouds, it looks like fleur-de-lis, this whole line of fleur-de-lis through the clouds, through the sky. It's just utterly beautiful. Man, what a marvelous afternoon. Just to be standing out here on my sidewalk. I'm actually out on the sidewalk right now. Just be holding these palm trees and nature all around. And this magnificent 100-plus-year-old sycamore across the street in its absolute splendor, basking in the sun after receiving an expert pruning. It just looks so beautiful. So beautiful. So I'm just sharing that.